So I wanted to do a quick video on this because a lot of people have been asking me, I want to clear there because a lot of my friends, in fact, no one except for my closest friends knew that I ever owned a Porsche, because I'm not the type that really likes to brag or show off my material possessions. I don't think it's what matters in life anyway, so I don't really talk about it. But the reason I wanted to bring it up and explain how I got it is because it was through some creative thinking that I was able to own it. And I think that kind of thinking is helpful and useful for anyone trying to do anything, really. So it kind of started with about 5 years ago. I bought my first exotic. It wasn't expensive. It was a Lotus Evora. And Lotus is a company that I've always loved even as a kid. Like in high school and middle school, I would, see this car and it kind of embodied the driver experience, like a pure driver experience. It's a nimble car. It's not about speed. It's not about 0 to 60. I always really disliked muscle cars, but I always thought that Lotus was kind of a pure brand attempting to deliver a really amazing driver's experience. So like, turning and the handling is amazing and all that good stuff. So, I made it an objective of mine to own a Lotus. I even printed a picture on my wall and I framed it, just as inspiration for me. And I'm like, one day I'll be able to own it. Fast forward maybe a year after that point in time when I moved to Texas, I saw one on sale nearby for around $45,000, which it's not a little bit of money, but it wasn't a lot of money. And at the same time, I knew that I probably can't really afford this. It's not a good financial decision, but Turo had been kind of up and coming at the time. And I thought, well, maybe if I rent it out, I can own it for most of the month, own it and drive it for most of the month. And then maybe 2 or 3 weekends out of the month, I can rent it and it'll make up the payments. So that's exactly what I did. I bought the car and I put on Turo, and I made so I bought the car for $45,000. I made around $20,000. I had, unfortunately, a lot of bad luck in terms of maintenance, and I spent around $10,000 in repairs. All avoidable, but I was kind of new to to maintaining older exotics, and I could have done things a little differently, but nonetheless, it was about $10,000. And I would say, I replaced the exhaust and a couple other things. So all in all, it was like $15,000. I owned it for 3 years, and then I sold it for $45,000. So I literally lost no money from that perspective. I would say I just about broke even. Maybe I did lose a little bit of money, but if you consider it like a rental or a lease, a lease payment is anywhere from $200 to $1,000 a month, and then you give the car back. So in this case, I did way better. So that was kind of the inspiration and what kind of sparked going from that to the Porsche. So eventually I moved back to New Jersey, and I walked into a Porsche dealership, and I was just looking to check out the Taycan because I thought it was a really cool electric car. And but at the same time, I realized that I had already too many electric cars, and if you don't have an at-home charger, it's really inconvenient. Electrics in general have a long way to go, I think. They're not 100% in terms of convenience and things like that, but they are great cars if the conditions are right. So anyway, while I was at the dealer, I saw the Cayman GTS 4 liter, and it just looked like such a great car, and I'll show you a picture of it. So I did some research and saw that they're not all that common. It's hard to get one. And this one was listed for about $110,000. And so I kind of on a whim, I decided, this is probably going to be a good financial decision if I hold it, maintain it, and rent it out. So that's what I did. I bought it for $110,000. I put a wrap on it just to protect the paint, and then I rented it out. And it rented out pretty well. I rented it for about $300 a day, and during the summers, it would make $10,000. So over the course of 3 years, I made about $35,000 in revenue. And then just recently I wanted to sell it, and because it's a GTS4, it retained its value really well. So I was able to go to the Lotus dealership because I had reserved the Lotus Emira. I went to the Lotus dealership and they were able to offer me $80,000 wholesale for it as a pre-trade, which means that any tax that I'd pay on the Lotus Emira is around $94,000. Any tax I would pay on that would kind of be reduced because of the pre-trade. So if you take 94 subtracted by 80, I'm only paying tax on 15K. So it just made a lot of sense. So if you do the math, 109 to 80, that is about $30,000 in depreciation. I made $35,000 in revenue, and you could argue I probably spent around $5,000, or I would say maybe $8,000 on the wrap and washes and things like that. So all in all, I think, it was also, what's crazy is the insurance. The insurance was so cheap. Like when I took the Porsche off my insurance, it went down by $40 a month. Now, maybe it's because it's a third car and they know that you're not going to drive all three cars as often as one person would drive one car. But I was very surprised at how cheap the insurance was for the Porsche. So having said that, I mean, that was totally worth it. There is some headache involved when you rent out a car. And you really have to detach. Like I couldn't be emotionally attached to any of my cars, no matter how beautiful they are or whatever. I always saw them as, a business decision, and also helped me in my professional life a little bit. It was definitely a conversation starter for some of my clients. But all in all, it was a great experience. And but that's also coming from somebody who did not have any major issues. So people brought it back, and no one really had any major damage to the car. No one totaled the car. So I may have regretted it if that were the case, but they do give you actual cash value in the case of a total. So it's not a complete loss. Now, I'm sharing all of this to say that if you can get really creative and you want something, you can make it happen. And another example of this in my life actually is 3 years ago when I got married. I bought an RV because I was sick of being cooped up in the house, and I also saw that I could live a life where I was working and exploring 24/7. So, I mean, if you guys check out the Instagram page, you'll see that we started in Texas, went to Big Bend National Park, went to White Sands National Park, went to a whole bunch of national parks from Texas to Nevada to New Mexico to California, and it was really a dream. Like it's hard to imagine a more fulfilling time in my life, to be honest. And I'm hoping to slowly get back to that. But essentially what I'm trying to say is, if you get a little creative, you can make your dreams come true. I know it sounds really cliche, but there's always a way. And if you really want something badly enough, you can make it happen. So that's what I wanted to share. Hopefully that was helpful to someone. And yeah, I guess I'll show you guys the mirror when it comes.